All right, good evening, everyone. How we doing? We can do a little bit better than that. Let's try that again. How we doing, everyone? Much better, much better. Good evening and welcome, everyone. Happy Friday. We made it. Welcome to the Achieving Cures Together annual gala, Growing Hope. Back by popular demand and through tremendous generosity, we are here tonight at Sovereign Wine Estates, here to celebrate all that has been, is, and will be done by ACT, saving lives by advancing microbiome research. First and foremost, can we get a round of applause for Sovereign Estates tonight for hosting us? I don't know where you're at, but Terry, Paul, and all of you who work with Sovereign, thank you so much. Your property is stunning. Thank you for allowing us to come back and for the continued support of our mission. We are truly, truly grateful. Also want to thank the band this evening as well as our volunteers, everyone from registration, signage, sign up. Yeah, round of applause right now. Wouldn't be possible without you to put on this entire ordeal. We have so much to be grateful for, and really, and probably most importantly, our research partners and Microbiota Therapeutics manufacturing team. Whew, that was a mouthful. I practiced that a lot, and it was tough. Can you please raise your hand if you're part of this group, therapeutics team as well as a researcher? Yeah. These are the individuals that are on the front lines putting our resources to work. Feel free, go up, talk to them, ask them more about what they're doing, how they are advancing cures. They'd be happy to talk to you, whether it's for you, someone you know, or just really greater knowledge. We're truly blessed to be able to partner with you and appreciate all that you continue to do to push cures forward. So thank you. All right, I know your hands might be hurting a little bit, but we're going to do another round of thank yous, but please hold the applause till the end. Our corporate sponsors. The immense generosity, and for all those that are corporate sponsors, we'll read through them here in a second, but the immense generosity and what you do for your community, specifically our organization, it does not go unnoticed. So I'm going to list them all out. If we could please hold the applause until the end, but our platinum sponsors this evening, Affiance Financial, AFPI, Scott Manufacturing, the Klutchka Foundation, Streamworks, Survey and Ballot Systems, the Winery at Sovereign Estates. And our silver sponsors this evening, Advanced Imaging Solutions, Bina Industrial Partners, Boulay, C.C. Donovan and Company, Fafinski Mark and Johnson, Mastercraft Labels, Pioneer Management Consulting, Rapid Packaging, Right Way, and UB Hardwoods. Thank you for helping us find cures together. One big round of applause. Yeah. Definitely deserved. Now, unfortunately, not all of our researchers could fly in to be with us this evening, but they wanted to give you an update on what they were working on and how your funds are being put to great use.
We are, in the 21st century, in the middle of a major paradigm shift in medicine. Some call it a revolution. We've discovered what some call a new organ. It's called the gut microbiota, which refers to rich and highly organized microbial communities that reside in our digestive system. As we've introduced antibiotics in medicine and have processed our food supply, that can actually starve the gut microbes when it's overprocessed. And so the focus of our program has been development and manufacturing of microbe-based therapeutics to repair the damage to the gut microbes that often is caused by medicine itself. The foundational disease has been C. difficile infection. About 100,000 people every year in the U.S. develop this recurrent C. difficile infection syndrome. And the best treatment for that is repair the original damage, repair the gut microbes. So what we've done is to develop a process that's based on a transplant model. We harvest microbes from healthy donors and then manufacture them in different formulations, which can be liquid or capsules. The most widely used for us is the capsules that can be administered orally. And as few as several, 3, 4, 5 capsules, one-time treatment is sufficient to cure a patient who's been suffering with recurrent C. difficile infections for the preceding months and sometimes years. In addition to our C. diff work, we support a number of clinical trials outside of C. difficile. For example, we support the work of Dr. Jim Adams at Arizona State University, who works with autism. But there are data showing that autism patients do have an altered composition of gut microbes. They may temporarily benefit from a brief antibiotic treatment, but its success is not sustained. And microbes do make many chemicals. About 10% of chemicals in your body are products of microbial metabolism in the gut. Some of these are neurotransmitters that can interact with the nervous system. In addition to autism, we're working with a team in Baltimore, Dr. Dutta, who started a trial in Parkinson's disease. Turns out Parkinson's disease may actually originate in the gut and affect the nerve cells in the gut and then migrate up into the brain. We're working with Dr. Jaz Bajaj in Virginia, who is one of the top liver doctors in the country and is really interested in the microbe-liver-brain interaction. He works with patients with advanced liver disease. Interestingly, in some of his work, he found that repairing the gut microbes can decrease cravings for alcohol. And we're anticipating a clinical trial now to test this idea that will be placebo-controlled. A huge area of interest now is immuno-oncology. In case of cancer, we want the immune system to attack the cancer. In case of autoimmune diseases, we don't want the immune system to attack our own body. So immuno-oncology is an area where we're trying to coax the immune system to attack the cancer. And that's a revolutionary part of medicine these days. There's biologic medications that activate the immune system to make it more inflammatory, and it seeks out the cancer and destroys it. However, if the patient takes antibiotics, these medicines don't work as well. So Dr. Amit Kulkarni and Dr. Manish Patel at the University of Minnesota are about to start a clinical trial to see whether we can improve the anti-cancer response in patients receiving these biologic medicines being treated for lung cancer. Now, the dark side of this therapy is that it can actually aggravate autoimmune problems. The most common one is so-called checkpoint colitis. And Dr. Kulkarni also has a clinical trial is developing to see if rebalancing the gut microbes can mitigate this problem. Another area, of course, is inflammatory bowel disease. That's an obvious interest because that's chronic inflammation right in the intestine. Most common types of inflammatory bowel disease are ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease. Dr. Byron Vaughn in our institution is leading some of the work in both of these directions. And there are other emerging clinical trials currently at the regulatory stage, including work at Columbia University in alopecia areata, an autoimmune disease. The problem of multi-drug resistant organisms other than C. difficile, work with an investigator team in Emory, Atlanta, as well as CDC.
I have established our fecal microbiota transplant program in 2012, and since then we have successfully treated over 800 patients who suffered from this terrible infection. And the treatment is also extremely successful for patients with severe disease who are hospitalized and do not respond to any other therapies. And with sequential delivery of this product, we were able to save many lives and many patients from colectomy or surgical removal of their colon using the Minnesota products.
My current research interests in chronic liver disease and hepatic encephalopathy, which is the gut-brain axis change in patients who have liver disease that causes cirrhosis. This is a very serious condition that affects patients' longevity, that affects their quality of life, not only of the patient themselves, but also their caregivers and people who actually have to take care of them. This results in multiple readmissions. Current medications for this do act on the gut, but despite that, many people do have problems with their brain function that can result into these negative psychosocial and clinical outcomes. So the current trial that we are doing, partly because of ACT, helps patients with cirrhosis, with hepatic encephalopathy, who are currently already of standard of care therapy. On top of that, we add the FMT, and we are studying in a randomized double-blind fashion whether this helps people prevent hospitalizations over a long-term period. We are very grateful to Dr. Alex Korutz, and we are happy that Achieving Cures Together is also part of this effort to potentially help our patients.
These patients spend several weeks in the hospital, and during this period, we treat them with various types of antibiotics to prevent and treat infections. Unfortunately, these antibiotics also kill the beneficial microbes, healthy microbes that patients carry in their intestinal tract. Damage to these healthy microbes has been associated in several studies with poor clinical outcomes after chemotherapy and stem cell transplant. To mitigate this problem, we designed and conducted a large clinical trial at the University of Minnesota where we collected stool samples from healthy individuals in the community. The primary goal of this study was to fix the damage that antibiotics cause to the body, to the microbes in fact, to prevent the adverse clinical outcomes of intensive chemotherapy and stem cell transplantation.
We are studying a very rare heart condition called pulmonary arterial hypertension. This disease affects the blood vessels in the lungs that leads to high pressure in the lungs and affects the right side of the heart. This is a fatal disease, and currently there is no cure for this condition. There is emerging evidence suggesting that the gut microbiome plays an important role. So we are studying whether we can modulate the gut microbiome by using intestinal microbiota capsule to treat this disease and potentially cure this disease.
My research involves studying how to develop microbiota-based therapeutics to treat, prevent, and hopefully one day cure inflammatory bowel disease. All my research involves microbiota-based therapies, often in the form of capsules. These are developed through the Microbiota Therapeutics program at the University of Minnesota. The support from Achieving Cures Together has been essential in every aspect of our research. From development of the capsules to the regulatory support to our study coordinators, we get support on every level. We've actually had patients from as far as California come for some of our clinical trials because what we're doing is not offered routinely in any other part of the country. I'm really hopeful that some of our results will be available in 2023. And our first trial for ulcerative colitis is wrapping up right about now.
So you'll ask, how is it possible that a small team, some 12 people at the University of Minnesota, is able to do all this work, including satisfying the monstrous regulatory requirements from the FDA and GMP manufacturing, running a donor program, doing R&D, and doing the science? The answer to this is teamwork. It's encapsulated in actually the name of our major partner, which is achieving cures together. And together means all of you. We're not supported by Big Pharma. We are driven by just the desire to make an impact, to help patients, to drive science forward for good. And you can become part of that. And of course, the key to this is all our collaborators, the ones that I mentioned, that are leading these clinical trials. So we're the central manufacturing unit, but we need all these collaborators to do the clinical trials, to collect the samples, and we need the scientists to analyze what is the outcome. How is the microbial community changing? What are the different metabolites that are changing so we can understand it better? It's really a completely new frontier of medical therapeutics. It's already saving lives, as I mentioned, for C. difficile patients, and it's making an impact in other diseases. So I hope that you'll become our partner. Thank you so much.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Pete Westerhouse. I'm the founder of Achieving Cures Together. And joining me here on stage is Christy Lansdowne, our executive director. Whoop. I better talk a little less. We are delighted to have each of you here this evening. I don't want to take time to share all the details from my personal story. You can find snippets of my story on our website, or would be happy to talk after the program here tonight. I might end up talking football all night long, though. But I would like to give a short synopsis. 10 years ago, I was living a dream playing Division I football with my eyes set on eventually playing in the NFL. I don't know, would you let your daughter date that guy? Ask my father-in-law. As everyone knows, life has unexpected challenges, and to use a baseball metaphor, life throws curveballs. That is all to say that my football dreams ended due to severe ulcerative colitis diagnosis, where I went from a 235-pound linebacker down to 148 pounds, clinging to life. There's a picture of me. As we learn when we suffer through challenges with hope and faith, new opportunities emerge. I had and still have a dream. Today I share my dream with each of you, and many of us here tonight share this dream, a dream of healing and hope. In a short time, this dream has become bigger than I could have imagined just 6 years ago. This dream is expanding to provide hope and healing to more illnesses and an ever-increasing circle of people around the world. And we're just getting started. Looking at the faces of many people here this evening, I see hope. I see the hope that has transformed this dream into a reality. We've raised just under $2 million, and this team has taken a mere pittance in terms of comparative research budgets. Yet, we have changed this field of study and given hope to thousands of patients. This hope has an even broader vision, and that vision is achieving cures together. We hear a lot about Big Pharma, some good, a lot of bad lately. I want to be clear, Big Pharma does a lot of good in this world. However, there are areas they won't explore because it doesn't make financial sense and they have a responsibility to their shareholders. And sometimes they don't have the best product available. This is where Achieving Cures Together comes in. As I said before, in 6 years, Achieving Cures Together has raised nearly $2 million, something we can all be very proud of. And it's only possible because of many of you here this evening. $2 million is a significant amount of money, but let's face it, it's a drop in the bucket when talking about clinical research, and wouldn't even be a line item on Big Pharma budget or annual statement. But through the generous funding that we have received, we have approached healing and research through a different model. And some may call this a unique model. What I mean by this is the majority of our funding is going to the production of microbial material used to treat sick patients and advanced research. So how do we accomplish this, you might ask? We have partnered with the leading team at the University of Minnesota, the Microbiota Therapeutics Program, headed by Dr. Alexander Kortz and many of the team members here this evening. This team established a stool donor program where we get stool donations. Stool is rich in microbes. We extract the microbes and then prepare it for transplantation in 3 forms. A form for that's in capsules and pills. We prepare it for a colonoscopic transplant. I had 3 colonoscopies, and boy, I wish I could have done the capsules. And most recently, we developed a liquid formulation that you can drink rather than having to take capsules. For many kids can't do that. We call this formulation Pooh Berry, and I wanted it to be part of the wine pairing tonight, but I got vetoed. The video that just played here a couple minutes ago, you can see some of the leading institutions that are receiving material from Achieving Cures Together. Through our microbial restoration production and distribution, we have created a web or network to advance research on many fronts and explore areas that many won't or can't go. So when we think about Achieving Cures Together, where we have come from and what we have done, I invite each of you to continue to dream big and continue to shape a new vision, one that will impact research and treatments worldwide. Thank you.
Every dream starts with a seed. An ACT seed was treating recurrent C. difficile patients. Sorry about that. I think we're okay now. We should have a map coming up on the slide here soon. These patients many times suffer for months, sometimes years, in the vicious recurrent cycle of antibiotic-resistant C. difficile infections before ultimately finding microbial transplants and long-term healing. In Minnesota, Dr. Kortz has treated over 1,000 C. difficile patients personally at the University of Minnesota. In addition, in 2019, the U of M expanded to partner with clinical providers at other academic institutions around the country, shown on the map here, to reach more patients. We have ongoing partnerships, sending microbiota therapeutics for C. difficile treatment to Brown University, Harvard, and Indiana University. We also supply therapeutics to clinical trials targeting C. difficile and clinicians located at the University of Wisconsin, Mayo, Ohio State, Northwestern, Ventura, California, and multiple VA locations. We also treat at-risk pediatric patients at the Masonic Children's Hospital right here in Minneapolis. One recent patient, a toddler, contracted C. difficile and received treatment after a heart transplant. Together, we have provided treatments for over 3,700 patients to our partner providers since 2019. We are at a stage in microbiota research where we are seeing clinical trials expand exponentially from where ACT started 6 years ago treating one condition, C. difficile, to now supporting clinical trials targeting 14 separate conditions. You can see on the map some of the locations of our partners. We have trials emerging at Harvard targeting food allergies, in Baltimore researching Parkinson's disease, Columbia University investigating congestive heart failure, and through their partnership with the University of Minnesota, they're also targeting alopecia areata, an autoimmune disease causing hair loss all over the body. Shortly, you'll hear from Dr. Adams at Arizona State University and his groundbreaking research with autism and Pitt-Hopkins disease patients. Here in our backyard at the University of Minnesota, researchers are conducting clinical trials using specific sulfate-reducing bacteria to target ulcerative colitis, and one of our patients is here tonight to share his story. we have a new trial investigating Crohn's disease, where 80% of patients will eventually need surgery sometime during their lifetime. The goal of this study is to reset the microbial balance after surgery to prevent future relapse. Additional studies at the U of M include cancer recovery, pulmonary arterial hypertension, and checkpoint inhibitor colitis. To date, we have supplied over 16,000 microbiota capsules to clinical trials around the nation. Now, we do not want to advertise microbiota therapeutics as a cure-all. Modern medicine takes many forms and a host of treatment options. While researchers are learning the multitude health connections associated with our gut microbes, it by no means cures every problematic area of health. However, it is a promising therapy, both as a standalone treatment for multiple conditions, including our C. difficile patients who have a 98% curative rate, as well as a co-therapy, for example, in our cancer research when paired with chemotherapy or immunotherapy. As a nonprofit partnered with academic institutions, we prioritize patient care. We not only support large clinical trials, but our partners at the University of Minnesota walk alongside families in compassionate care or single trial patients. These require equal amount of work and time and effort from our research partners, and a huge thank you to Amanda Kabich for all her time invested with these single study patients. Our goal is to serve as many patients as possible within FDA requirements, even when that's one patient at a time. Here on the map, you can see the locations of our single patient trials. And to date, we have produced over 1,000 microbiota capsules solely for these single study patients. As Dr. Koretz said, we have only been able to support this research together through partnerships. So whether you've been a long-term partner with ACT or are joining us for the first time tonight, thank you. Our ACT community has grown to span 38 states and 4 countries that you can see on the map in blue. Our mission is to continue supporting the groundbreaking work being done at the University of Minnesota Microbiota Therapeutics Program and our academic partners. We can touch more lives and impact medical care for generations to come by investing today. Many of us already have a loved one connected or suffering from a health condition connected to our gut microbes. The work we do today paves the path for better care, treatment, and outcomes for our loved ones in the future. And now it is my pleasure to introduce Dr. James Adams. We are so very honored that you came here today all the way from Arizona State University, and we're so grateful to partner with your work. Dr. Adams and his research associates at the Arizona State University are conducting groundbreaking work targeting autism and Pitt-Hopkins disease patients, and he's here to share with us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. So how many of you know someone with autism? How many of you know? When I was a boy growing up, I'd never heard the word. It used to be 1 in 10,000. Now it's about 1 in 50. About 2% of children in the US now develop autism. Generally believed to be lifelong, generally believed to be incurable, 80% of them unable to work, 80% of them living with their family or needing to go into residential care facility. We think we can make a big change in that. And I want to thank very much Alex Koretz and all his team for the work we've done for the data that I want to share with you. So if we can have the PowerPoint slides. Great. So this is work that we've done both with children with autism, and then I'll briefly also mention children with Pitt-Hopkins, which is a very rare disease involving a single gene disorder which results in severe autism. Autism is pretty severe as it is. Pitt Hopkins is even worse. So basically, what we know is that for children with autism, roughly 40% of them develop major chronic GI problems, chronic constipation, chronic diarrhea, abdominal pain, really has a big effect on their quality of life. We published the first study 10 years ago showing that the children with autism who had gut problems had even worse autism symptoms. So the children in blue are the children with autism, standard autism. The kids in red are the kids who had autism and GI symptoms. And we found that those had worse across the board in autism symptoms, worse social interaction, worse speech, worse sensory problems, worse physical and behavioral problems. If you're having gut pain, it's going to be hard to concentrate, hard to learn, and hard to be very social with other people. So our hope is that through our treatment, we can treat those GI problems, those red bars will shift to blue and will really improve the quality of life for those children and adults. So let's move on. And so we've done several studies, and 3 studies have consistently shown that children with autism are missing many of the beneficial bacteria in your gut. A normal person might have of order 1,000 beneficial bacteria that help you digest your food, help you with producing key vitamins, and helping fight off bad bacteria. Kids with autism, we found, are missing several hundred species. One child's missing these several hundred, another child's missing these several hundred. It's very complicated. So next slide. So what we did is we worked on developing a transfer protocol for kids with autism. C. diff is remarkably easy to treat, as we've learned, that 1 dose, 85% cure rate, 2 doses getting up to 95% cure rate. Kids with autism, it was discovered, are very hard to treat their GI problems. 1 pill, 1 time is not enough. We need to treat them every day for many weeks, and slowly, gradually can change their GI symptoms. So we developed a protocol with Dr. Koritz and others in which we first give 2 weeks of a powerful antibiotic to kill off the bad bacteria. And then we do a bowel cleanse, just like you'd have for a colonoscopy, to clear out as much of the remaining bacteria as possible. And then reseed with beneficial bacteria from the super healthy donors that are in the donors program at University of Minnesota. And these microbiota are highly purified, over 99% bacteria, and it's had a huge effect, as we'll show you. So next slide. What we've treated was 18 children with autism, ages 7 to 16 years. We discovered all of them had these GI problems since infancy. They'd always had these chronic GI problems, mostly constipation, often alternating with diarrhea, but some kids with just diarrhea. And so, next slide. The initial results were really exciting. 80% reduction of their GI problems. And then we waited because we knew that treating with antibiotics alone, we could temporarily cure the problems, but they'd come back within a few weeks. 8 weeks later, those benefits were still stable because we had reseeded with beneficial bacteria. Also, initially a 23% reduction in autism symptoms, which is huge. That's unheard of to have such good response. And the microbiome diversity, they restored back to a normal number of bacteria. So instead of missing 25% of their normal gut bacteria, they went back to a normal level. So all looking very good. And so we published a paper, and I thought I was done. And then 3 different families came up to me and said, Professor Adams, my son's doing better than ever. So we did something very rarely done in science. We did a follow-up study. We followed up with every one of our 18 participants, and we discovered that they consistently were telling us, my child was just better able to learn. Now the pain and those GI symptoms were gone. They were better able to learn how to talk, better able to learn how to socialize and make friends, and having better behaviors. And so now, next slide, we found that now most of those GI benefits were still holding. One child had antibiotics and lost some benefit, but most of the GI benefits were holding. But now our expert autism evaluator said now there's a 47% reduction in autism symptoms. Kids who had severe autism were down to mild or moderate. Kids who were mild to moderate autism now no longer met the criteria for autism. Still had some symptoms, but hugely improved. This is unheard of. And so the FDA was very excited about this, and they awarded us what's called fast track status. There is no FDA treatment, approved treatment, for the core symptoms of autism. This could be the first FDA-approved treatment for the core symptoms of autism, affecting over 2 million people in the US and millions more worldwide. So this is just a slide showing that at the start of the study, the kids had high GI problems. At the end of treatment, 16 of 18 had had a huge drop in GI symptoms. 1 means absolutely none. And then 8 weeks later, still very good. 2 years later, still after treatment had stopped, still very good. And what if we gave them a boost later? Well, we couldn't do that in this study, but if for those few who relapsed, we could give them another dose in future. So next slide, the really exciting part is on the right. At the start of the study, 85% of the kids were severe autism in red. At the end of the study, less than 20% are severe autism, 40% mild to moderate autism, 45% below the cutoff for autism. It's just astonishing. We had no idea we'd see that level of improvement. Now, there's some placebo effect. This is an open label study. So that's why we are now doing randomized double-blind placebo-controlled studies. So the bottom line is this microbiota transplant seems to be a very promising treatment for treating these core GI problems and getting rid of these bad bacteria that apparently are releasing some nasty toxins that affect gut, but also affect brain function. And so we are now, let's go on to the next slide. We now have fast-track approval from the FDA. We're now running our phase 2 studies, which are very successful. And so let's go on to the next slide. So we are now currently partnering with Phoenix Children's Hospital. We just finished our study for 55 adults with autism, randomized double-blind. And I can't give you the details yet because it's not published, but I'll just say it's so good, we are now going to go on to either a phase 2 or a phase 3 study, which is the final step towards drug approval. So we're very excited about that. Also, I'll briefly mention we did a study for children with very severe autism called Pitt-Hopkins. So let's go on to that slide. And I should also mention, I forgot to mention, we also are over 75% of the way through a second study for children with autism, randomized double-blind. But these are our kids with Pitt-Hopkins, a single gene disorder which involves this really severe intellectual disability. Most of them can't talk. They're functioning at about the level of a 2-year-old, mostly in wheelchairs. They can't really control their arms and legs very well. But the biggest issue in their quality of life is this horrific GI pain from chronic constipation. And so next slide is our treatment done in a small number of these children. Just 6 of them were able to swallow the pills. They're so challenged, most of them can't swallow pills. This randomized double-blind study showed a huge improvement, 84% reduction in GI symptoms, 97% reduction in days of significant pain. The parents said, now my child was no longer biting me or scratching me when they're in pain. Now they're happy for the first time in their lives. Such a difference for these really severe kids. And so we also saw many other improvements in other symptoms, better social interaction, less anxiety, better walking, better language. Kids just seemed happier. This study alone, the results are so strong, might be enough for FDA approval. The classic example the FDA gives is if you see improvement in 3 of 12 kids for these ultra-rare diseases, that's enough. We saw improvement in 5 out of 6. Is 5 out of 6 better than 3 out of 12? I think so. Okay. So let's go back. We'll just finish on this slide. But the bottom line is that because most of these kids cannot swallow capsules, that's why we're so grateful to Dr. Koretz and his team that they're now making a liquid formulation that all of these children could take. So many thanks to Dr. Koretz and his team, and what a pleasure it is to work with him and be getting very close to drug approval. And thank you all very much for your support.
Thank you, Dr. Adams, for sharing your incredible work. We really appreciate making the trip this evening. ACT is honored to partner with you, and your impact on patients and families is profound. We look forward to hearing more on the progress in the future. Thank you. I now want to introduce our next speaker, Matt. Matt Steiner is one of the patients that utilized treatment funded by ACT, and the results have been remarkable. He's a pioneer patient, driven to extraordinary efforts just to find a possibility for normal life. His testimony serves as validation of what we set out to achieve from the beginning and are achieving. Please welcome Matt Steiner.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. It's my great privilege to be here tonight to tell you a little bit about my story and how ACT and the folks at the University of Minnesota literally saved my colon. So before my diagnosis, I'd never had a serious illness. I lived a privileged and mostly charmed life growing up in San Diego. I was the son of 2 medical doctors who are both here, and I thought I was invincible. I ate whatever I wanted, and I never thought about my gut. When I was diagnosed with UC, I had no idea what I was in for. I got immediate attention from a world-class team of gastroenterologists at UCSD. My doctors knew my parents, and they went out of their way to give me literally the best care that you could get. They prescribed me over many 3 to 6 month periods virtually every available drug and biologic, including Humira, Remicade, Entyvio, Stelara, Xeljanz, Uceris, and others. They prescribed heavy prednisone and other steroid treatments for the duration of my disease, which were the only thing that sort of worked and had terrible side effects, never helped me achieve remission. I did more than 100 2-hour hyperbaric oxygen sessions at UCSD. I've been hospitalized. I was hospitalized in the summer of 2018 for more than 3 weeks. I've had 14 colonoscopies or FlexSig procedures since my diagnosis. I've tried every diet and meal plan, Chinese herbs. My weight fluctuated between 160 and about 265 pounds, depending on how much steroids I was taking. It literally changed my whole life to cure my disease to no avail. So basically, in summary, despite having the best available treatments and medical attention, nothing worked prior to FMT. This made my life, everything in my life, more difficult. For years, I had a constant dull pain that became unbearable when I had to use the bathroom. I'd use the bathroom constantly, day and night. I regularly saw blood and mucus in my stool every day. This was often my first experience every morning, so it's a soul-crushing and terrible way to start the day. At work, at the time of my diagnosis, I was a successful corporate lawyer at a big firm, working really hard, but that was far too demanding for me to continue as a result of the symptoms of my disease. I was depressed, I was in constant pain, and I would only eat once a day. So after 4 years of hell, and after my doctor at UCSD literally said, I don't give up on people, but in your case, we don't have anything else. You have to get the surgery. I was finally ready to throw in the towel and have a colectomy. So this was my status in fall 2019 when I learned about the FMT research study at the University of Minnesota. It was thanks to my wife, Heather, who's here, who always had hope, who found this, and her good friend, Julia, who's here. They were college friends. Julia found this program, and so we found it on our own, and we thought we were going to fly out to Minnesota and give it a shot. I was not expecting much. I basically passed the mental barrier at this point of deciding I was going to get this surgery, which was really hard for me to get to. So I was patient number 01 in the program. To my great surprise, after about 3 days of taking FMT capsules, I literally felt my gut come back to life. In less than a week, I went from hating to eat because of the pain to craving hamburgers and burritos and other foods that I hadn't enjoyed in years. Since that time, I've had no pain, no blood in my stool, and all of my symptoms have gradually improved. I've done 3, thank you. Thank you. I've done 3 8-week treatments of FMT. The last time I took the capsules was about this time last year. I've not taken heavy steroids since starting the treatment, and this is the best that I've felt since my disease first started, and I have hope that I'm going to get to 100% remission. And I got my mojo back at work, which would never have happened without FMT. So because of my personal experience, I know that this medicine is the future, and I really cannot think of a more worthy cause. You donors are making this possible for people that are not lucky like me, that don't have the resources to fly on their own dime to Minnesota and come try out a new experimental therapy. I was gladly able to do this, but most people could not. I actually ended up flying to Minnesota 8 times to pick up capsules. That was all I did. I'd fly to Minnesota, meet with the doctors. I would have to pick up my capsules, and then I would get on a plane and come back home. So I'm very grateful, and I want to say thank you. First to my wife, Heather. Having ulcerative colitis is a burden on was a horrible burden on our whole family, and Heather was the glue that kept us together, and she's always kept hope. Same with my parents, Bob and Mia, who are here. They've been with me every step of the way and encouraged me to come try this program. And then, as I said, to our dear friends, Julia and Gab, for helping us find this program and for hosting us while we're here in Minnesota. So finally, I'm eternally grateful to the University of Minnesota, Dr. Kortz, Dr. Vaughn, and to ACT. So I like to tell this story as a symbol and sort of to demonstrate how grateful I was. One time in January 2020, right before the pandemic, I literally got on a plane and flew to Minnesota for the sole purpose of taking a dump. I did that, and they needed a specimen, and they couldn't get the right specimen at UCSD, and so I got on a plane, flew to the airport, got in an Uber, met them at the clinic, did my business, got back in the Uber, and came back. So, and I would do it again in a heartbeat. So, thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you. That is a courageous warrior. Amazing. Thank you, Matt. My name's John Westerhouse, Pete's dad, And I am a board member of ACT. And my role tonight is, after we've been hearing these incredible stories, these visions, these outcomes, these courageous fights, is to do the transition now into the ask. So I look at it, I'm the setup man in the 8th inning in a baseball analogy. So we're getting ready for that finish line. And I appreciate this role to do so because it is so personal for me where we're about in ACT. But I have to make it real. I'm not a slide person. I'm more of a kind of a Jethro person, as I've described. So I had to bring some actual props. It's going to be tough with this mic. So our claim to fame in the state of Minnesota is we have very few national championships, world champions of anything. So for you fellow out-of-staters, you understand. But we do claim the Minnesota Twins in 1987 and 1991. Yes. And in that time, there was a series in 1987 that was our first taste of victory. There was, in the setup role, was a pitcher named Juan Berenguer. And he was nicknamed beautifully Senor Smoke. So that's who you have tonight, is Senor Smoke. And an amazing, amazing man and great history left. So Senor Smoke, I am going to be that person right now that's going to give you my very best pitches. And my pitches are for you to engage in ACT and support it, maybe at levels you haven't before, or in just beginning if you're new to this first evening of ever being at the gala. And so my pitches I'm going to give you, I've got 3 of them. But before I hit the mound, I have to tell you, why am I here? Yes, Peter going through ulcerative colitis, incredible difficulty. The journey was a struggle, hard to even grasp at times. But there's people in this room that have gone that same journey, and other diseases as well. There are actually, thinking in my terms, my wife Sue has battled ulcerative colitis her adult life, but has been able to maintain it with some low medications. I have a cousin that has Crohn's disease. I have a nephew that has severe allergies. There's friends that and some family members with autoimmune disease, diabetes. The web continues, and one very good friend who had advanced liver disease, who is no longer with us, and so that pitch becomes really so easy. I couldn't wait to get up here and throw you why we need you to become part of that together, achieving cures together. My first pitch, it's going to be tough with my mic, but I'm going to really throw it. My wife Sue, do not throw a ball in the house. I'm going to. My first pitch is my fastball. Senor Smoke has got to give you the best one. And this will look wimpy, but I'm going to throw it anyway. Senor Smoke, he's ready, delivers, gets it across, throws a strike. My very first pitch is to really recognize there is no other place in the world that's doing this. This is it. This is the only place in the world that is doing the microbial therapeutics through an academic organization, encapsulating those and distributing and getting out to studies and research and supporting incredible people across the United States. It's the only one. How better pitch can I give you? And you are part of that. Huge. Pitch number 2. And this one comes from a friend and a spiritual advisor that some of us in this room know. His name is Father William Bear. Father William Bear was an architect and later in life discovered the priesthood was really his calling. And he would often quote a fellow architect, that would say, "Make no little plans. They have no magic to stir men's blood." And to me, that reflects Achieving Cures Together and the therapeutics program. And our good doctors, Dr. Adams and such, these are not little plans. These are stepping at big obstacles. These are big difference makers in individual human lives and in medicine. Make no little plans. We're making big plans. But those plans do reflect the together. It can't be done individually, it's together. So here comes my curve, Peter. That's the best curve I had. Sorry, Joel. Which brings me to my third pitch. And before making this pitch, I have to tell you that Juan Berenguer, as strong as he was, his whole goal was to set things up for the ninth inning. It was to strike people out. Get them out of there, get them on the bench. Mine's the opposite, and this pitch reflects that. It's going to be my changeup. And the changeup it's to invite you in, not to strike you out. We need you. We need you desperately to advance the work of Dr. Quartz and his team, and Dr. Adams and his team, and on and on. So before I make my final pitch, which is the most important in many regards, is to reflect on why are you here? Why are you here? And so grateful are we that you are, but to reflect on what does this mean to you? So my final pitch, and this, as I said, is my changeup. So maybe a strike or not. My final pitch is to, and you picked it up tonight, I think, in the slides. The final pitch is this is a medical frontier that is brand new. Yes, there's been, we've known about our gut and some of those things, but where it's going is extremely exciting, and it's fueled, and it's brand new in terms of new radical science. And to be part of something like that pitch, to be a part of something with that potential to exponentially make change in helping people's lives is, I believe, quite rare. Quite rare. And so asking you to jump onto something and be a supporter of something in that pitch is a difficult one, in that you're taking that risk, but the reward and the opportunity, and to hear the stories of individuals affected, person by person by person, is everything. So my closing is, we're going to hand it to the closer. Brendan Halloran is going to finish up the ninth inning. I want to thank you in advance for your support and for being here. And ask you to continue it, and to continue it in a strong way, and we so appreciate it. So I'll bring on the closer, Brendan Halloran. God bless.
So this is what the big leagues feel like. Oh man, only could have dreamed of it. Anyone see what I'm holding up right here? It's pretty small. It's not a pill, close guess. It's a seed. It's actually a mustard seed. Now, mustard seeds grow into mustard trees, which can grow as tall as 20 feet and just as wide. That was ACT 6 years ago, based off Peter's experience in working with Dr. Quartz. A small idea, and look what it's become. Now, this might be a little bit easier to identify. Someone shout, come on, what do I got? Money, absolutely right. Now you might be wondering, what does money have to do with a mustard seed? Well, given the state of inflation in this country currently, it probably can water the seed for about 2 days. But joking aside, your donations are the water of our organization. Without them, we wither and die. With them, we continue to grow into everything that we thought we would be and even more. And tonight here is proof of exactly that. We will continue to be good stewards of the resources that you've bestowed upon us. Dr. Kortz put it best this evening. I don't know where he's at somewhere. There we go, right over there. This was profound. We aren't supported by Big Pharma. We are a group of individuals driven by a desire to make an impact. So here are some of the ways that you can be our water. And I'm going to use John's pitch analogy because that was pretty good. First, you should have received a text message to your phone, or you can scan the QR code on your donation card, and it will take you to our website. That's pitch number one. Now, you can either give a donation via cash on the website, or, again, thanks to tremendous generosity by Sovereign Wine Estates, you can give a donation and receive a few special items that they will have for tonight only, such as the famous engraved wine barrel, cases of wine, wine glasses, etc. But please know on the card, these are not 100% tax deductible. You can also give via check, option 2, pitch 2. Same deal. If you give check, no items, 100% tax deductible. Otherwise, you can give towards one of the gifting levels. If you want to give appreciated securities from your charitable fund, from your IRA, see me after the program, but that's pitch 3. I can walk you through that. Now, John had 3 pitches. I've got 4. And honestly, I didn't know I had this 4th until about a half hour before this program, but we've had an anonymous donor come forward and is willing to match dollar for dollar up to $10,000 for the first donation tonight. That's right. That's the special stuff. No matter how big, no matter how small, we appreciate the opportunity to use your water and hope that you can stretch yourself in giving. No one ever regrets generosity, and now is the time. This isn't a 2-year thing from now, 3-year thing from now. We are achieving cures right now. To finish the metaphor, lastly, and for safety purposes, we're going to go with a non-live example, but consider a bee. Your presence here tonight shows that you are intentional with your time, your resources, you care, and you're here to make a difference. Bees pollinate, they transfer, they spread. Not everyone can cut the big checks, call it fertilizer if we're going to go on this entire metaphor with trees. Spread the word. Odds are that you know that someone is afflicted by one of these diseases tonight, one of them that we are working to combat. Your donation tonight can put in motion all of the different research that we are trying to fund and put cures into people's lives like Matt's. Truly make a difference. Pollinate, spread the message, and join our cause. And we're going to illustrate that here to close out the night. So I'm going to ask you, if you were affected by one of the diseases tonight, could you please stand? If you have been or are currently affected by it, please stand. Can you please stand if you have a loved one that has been affected by one of these diseases tonight? Please stand if you know someone that is affected by one of these diseases tonight. Look around you. You are the bees. Be the water. Be the bees. Give us the water to grow our trees. From all of us here at ACT, we thank you for your time, your talents, and everything tonight. Please stick around. We're going to have wine and some more music here. But if not, please drive home safe, and thank you again for attending our gala tonight. Good night.